do you want to introduce yourselves again?
My name is Kate,
My name's Marty.
and together we are Tart Vandelay.
Nice.
That's
Can you
us.
tell us about your name?
Yes, it is a pun based on a Seinfeld reference. In the Seinfeld show, George Costanza, when he's trying to get out of like a lot of situations, he uses an alter ego by the name of Art Vandelay, who I believe is an architect. Am I not mistaken?
In most episodes, it's whenever he wants to lie and make
Yeah.
himself feel better about being kind of a loser.
So we initially named it that just for the pun, but then we realized after the fact that we find ourselves in Seinfeld-esque situations all the time. Like our
Very
lives are
appropriate.
very much like the show, so it ended up working on multiple levels.
Cool. Do you feel like that influences the music at all?
Not
Ooh.
really.
No.
That's a good question, though.
In fact, it's kind of the opposite. Like a lot of our favorite bands, I feel like their name doesn't really indicate their sound at all, and I think we wanted something that like was just vague sounding enough that you couldn't necessarily get a feel for what we do. I mean, I feel like maybe like country and metal bands, it's like really apparent right off the bat. Like, the band Hatebreed is like really, it's pretty clear what
Is that a
they're.
country band?
Nice.
Well, don't get me wrong, we do have some funky bass lines sometimes.
Yeah.
But not that like.
What about like One Time? That might be cool one
That would
time.
Maybe one time.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll try to get a sample in there.
So how did you meet?
Well,
Ooh, juicy.
her sister was dating my best friend, and they were kind of trying to get us together. And we also both started going to the same music school at that same time. So
We knew who each other were.
yeah.
But the first time we actually bumped into each other, we actually did run into each other in the hallway in between music classes.
And we figured out our families like went way back, and like her family grew up with a bunch of mine, and they all know each other because they're from small towns in upstate New York. So it was like, it was kind of easy. It just kind of fell into place.
I felt like we were eventually meant to meet at some point. It was just a matter of time.
All these different ways that we could have.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
Yeah.
So when did you start making music together?
We dated for a few years before we decided to start making music together. I think we always wanted to, but like we both wanted to be like touring most of the year, and like that can put a lot of stress on a relationship. So at first we were like, well, let's just like make sure the relationship is solid before we start getting into that. And then like 3 years in, we were at school. Here, you can tell the rest of it.
Can I?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, I mean, we kind of were bouncing from school to school, like trying to figure out what we wanted to do after. And, we just kept coming back to like, we want to make some type of pop music and tour behind it. And we were both really aligned with that. So it actually was like this really amazing thing when we started writing songs together, because it really, like, for me, for example, I've always been able to come up with like a loose song structure on guitar, but I was never a lyric writer or a vocalist or anything. And like when we first started writing together, it really was this explosion of like two halves of the same musical mind coming together, and she was able to like come up with vocal and lyrical ideas that it's like, man, that's what I was hearing in my head that there was no way that I could articulate. So it really, we waited a few years, but it was really exciting when we finally started doing it together.
Yeah. We made a good team.
I love that. How has your writing process changed?
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. Like when we first started writing together, we actually wrote sort of separately. Like he would come up with a guitar part, and then I would take that and go hide in a room for hours and just like, come up with lyrics in my head. And then we'd kind of like meet back up and see what we thought. Now I feel like we've gotten a lot more collaborative, like in these last few songs, and even the ones we're writing right now. It's very much like very equally, I don't know, coming from both of us. Like I'll have a lyrical idea, but there's like one line that I'm missing, and I'll bounce it off him, and he'll say exactly what I'm trying to think of, and then,
Well, yeah, like when we first started, it was a much more traditional, like, more analog setup, and, I was just playing guitar, wasn't doing any electronic production. She was just singing and playing ukulele for the most part, and doing like some vocal looping.
Yeah.
We had a bassist and a drummer, so like it was a more traditional way of writing. Like I would kind of map out a song, or she would map out a song, and then we'd sort of be separate, like she said. And I feel like in starting to make electronic music, you know, we're building the whole arrangement from the ground up together. So it really is this more like, whereas before one of us would have taken the song seed and like germinated it, for lack of a better analogy, like on our own,
We're
and then like
When it goes
seeds
to
here,
Germany?
people.
yeah, exactly, it flies across the ocean, comes back a completed song. Now I just feel like one of us has like a small little idea, and then like right away we're both working on it and expanding it together. So I think that's been really gratifying too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So what are you working on right now?
A lot.
Yes, we've had a bunch of song ideas just like stacked up for a long time. And finally, just in this last month, we've been sitting down and like writing out lyrics, arranging structure. So it's not set in stone yet, but ideally, we're thinking we're going to have a few singles to release next year. We also have some music videos from previous singles that like a lot of people have asked us to make, so we're going to make those too. And
Oops.
all of this
Sorry,
is
Kate.
hopefully leading up to the release of a debut album, which we have yet to release, and we're hoping that'll come out in 2025. So, yeah, that's our game plan so far, right?
Yeah.
And gigging a lot. Yeah.
That's exciting. Super exciting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What would you say to someone that is just starting to write music?
Ooh.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
There's so many times you feel like you hit a wall, and you know, it's like anything else. You just have to keep investing in it, keep pushing. Like, you know, I don't know, it can get really easily discouraging, but can also be just as gratifying on the opposite end. So you just kind of have to like let the highs carry you through the lows.
For me, I would say from more of a songwriting perspective, like save all your song seeds. And by song seed, I mean like just a small idea, anything that comes into your head. Just get a voice recorder on your phone, record it as soon as you think of it. Like, you never know if an idea from years ago will be like the perfect missing puzzle piece of the song that you're trying to work on. So that's really helped me creatively throughout the years. But also, yeah, like, don't give up, keep going, you know. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
Well,
us.
Tart Vandelay will be playing at Moonrock Cantina on October 15th, this upcoming Sunday. We're really excited to hear them. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers.
See you Sunday.